You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. New York City completed its rollout of body cameras on all uniformed patrol officers earlier this year. But hundreds of new cops deployed by Governor Andrew Cuomo to stop fare evasion and homelessness, well, in the city subway system, will not be required to wear body cameras. This summer, after the governor became concerned about a reported uptick in fare beating, the Metro Transportation Authority temporarily diverted more than 400 police officers from commuter trains, and the Bridges and Tunnels Division into the subway. Those officers will soon be replaced by 500 new state police officers that the MTA is currently in the process of hiring at a cost of roughly $663 million over the next decade. Now, neither of those groups are required to wear body cameras because the new cops are not part of the NYPD. All right, Rob, is this a bad idea? Should these cops all have body cameras?
It's a horrible idea. So I've talked about this on my show. I've seen this a lot in Cincinnati. Had we not had body cams in several situations, we wouldn't have been able to hold officers accountable. There would have been a completely different story. The story that was actually on the actual report was different from what the body camera showed. So look, I believe in accountability. And when you're an officer, they have a very tough job. But at the end of the day, they have to be accountable. And they have to be transparent because they literally hold the power of people's lives in their hands. So yes, we need more transparency. This is a horrible idea. We have so much documentation to show why every single officer should definitely have a body cam. So I don't understand this policy. I don't get it.
Does it make sense, Bellick?
I'm not too sure. I look at this a little differently than an actual, a beat cop, an officer on the street or something. The DC is a prime example where the council, the mayor, they're all trying to figure out what we're going to do around fare evasion because it's a huge problem. Even where I live in Ward 8, at the Congress Heights Metro, there's lots of fare evasion. So I know that different jurisdictions are trying to figure out how to do it. And that was one of the things here in DC that happened, that the mayor, they actually increased the number of officers who were there. But whether or not those officers, even looking at a place like DC, whether or not those officers who are essentially in the subway systems or something like that, whether they should have cameras, I'm really not sure if they should have cameras, but the police officers who are out, saving lives and all of this type of stuff, I think they should. I'm just not too sure whether someone who's actually charged with finding people who evade fares should have a body camera. But if they do, I'm not going to be opposed to it. But I feel differently about this than I would just regular beat cops on the street.
I want to say very quickly, I've seen this logic play out before. So at the University of Cincinnati, as I told you previously, I was on the board, and we had an uptick in crime. And we were told that the university officers are not the same as the regular beat officers. And that was supposed to be the truth. However, we saw someone shot and killed who shouldn't have been shot and killed. It often happens that, look, those officers are going to respond as officers do. So I don't see the argument for not having a body camera. I think you need more transparency. I've seen it play out the opposite way.
What do you think?
Kelly, I dare say if a cop is coming in and interacting with the public in this way, got to be wearing a body camera.
You have to. I mean, and we have so many examples of what happens when you do wear a body camera. Like Rob was saying earlier, you have instances where the story that's in the report doesn't match up with what's in the body camera. Just as recently as this last shooting with the young woman playing video games with her nephew, had he not been wearing a body camera, who knows what that police officer would have said to convince the public that that was a justified shooting. I understand that we're talking about the subway now, but even in those situations, we have instances where had there not been a body camera there or anybody taking accountability via technology, that we wouldn't know exactly what the story is, because at this juncture, cops are not necessarily all that trustworthy but for the body camera or but for third-party videotaping it. So until we are in a space as a society where we can actually trust cops again, if we ever did, you need to have something on your person to actually record what you're doing, because we can't trust the words coming out of your mouth.
Well, I just want to say, Roland, you know, as someone who my sole source of transportation is our city's metro, our subway system, our buses, or even when I'm walking, I've seen this play out for years where people have been detained for skipping fare, because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about responding to a crime or murder or shooting or anything like that. We're talking about skipping fare, and I've yet to see an instance of that I would say required one of those officers who were essentially detaining people, giving them a citation to appear of court. And I think that may have changed in the DC Council law. They may have changed that, but I've yet to see an instance where I've actually seen that compares to what I see on the street, where people are actually detained and they're locked, you know, they're handcuffed and all of that. I think this is just a subway thing. It's totally different, you know. And this is just based on my experience being a commuter who uses the subway system all the time.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, fam, it's almost that time. The holiday season, of course, is, for many of us, the favorite time of the year. Now, whether you celebrate Halloween, Thanksgiving, Ramadan, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's, all of these, of course, from October to the end of the year, this is when you think about spending time with the people you love the most. This is also the time to count your blessings and support those less fortunate and look at how you can have an impact on their lives. Well, I have the perfect opportunity for you to be a holiday hero and have a major impact on other families. Here's the deal. Right now, hundreds of thousands of Americans are sitting in jail without being convicted of a crime. Why? Because they lack the financial resources to pay their bail. Now think about it. If you are arrested for any minor offense, you will be taken directly to jail. If you don't have bail money, whether it's a few $100 or a few $1,000s, you will stay there until a court date is scheduled. Now, that could be days, weeks, or even months. America's bail system is broken and has created a two-tier system of justice, one for the rich and one for the poor. Folks, freedom should be free. That's why the Ebony Foundation is partnering with the Bail Project and is sponsoring the Home by the Holiday campaign. With your help, our goal is to bail out 1,000 people by New Year's Day. Now, how's that for a holiday gift? A donation from you can change someone's life tomorrow, and here's why it is critical. People of color represent upwards of 90% of the jail population across the country. It ranges from 50 to 90% depending upon where you are. Now, of course, then when they stayed in jail, 90% of people with misdemeanors ended up pleading guilty. However, when bail was paid, 50% of the cases were dismissed and less than 2% received the jail sentence. Sometimes justice needs just us to join the fight. Folks, you can be a holiday hero by donating $25, $50 or more to help the Ebony Foundation bring our brothers and sisters home for the holidays. To donate, go to homebytheholiday.com. That's HOMEBYTHEHOLIDAY.com. And of course, the Ebony Foundation is tied to Ebony Magazine. And so we certainly appreciate the work that they're doing to assist those who are most in need. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.